Hello, welcome to the recorded version of our webinar on the psychology and history of conspiracy theories. This will be take 2 because of the technical difficulties we had when we went live. However, the evidence has been deleted and we will deny it if you ever repeat to anybody else what happened. So,
congratulations on witnessing that wonderful experience. Thank you for your patience.
And thank you for coming back and watching this edition of it. I'm Dr. Leah Tarwater, and I'm joined today by Professor Allegra Davis-Hanna.
Hi.
Oh, so let's talk about our webinar series, Learn to Discern.
Which will be so smooth and amazing after today.
Because we got every single hiccup we could possibly have out of the way today. I hope, right?
And Professor Wilson Mertens will never desert us again.
She's never allowed to be sick or not be on campus.
So
yes. All right. So this is the first webinar in our Learn to Discern webinar series. And you can see on your screen that the future webinars, Spies and Ties, will dive into the business world. Then we'll take a look a little bit into science with investigating the flat Earth.
Although the flat Earth is not science.
I meant the science that disproves the flat Earth.
Yes.
We'll look historically at a conspiracy theory when we talk about Tecumseh's curse, which involves presidential deaths. Back to science with vaxxers and anti-vaxxers, then scientific literacy and democracy. And then we will be confronting denial, such as the denial of the Holocaust and other historical events.
So I'm going to talk to you first. This is Professor Hanna about what a conspiracy theory is. A conspiracy is a secret plan to do something wrong, illegal, and hurtful. Typically, the word conspiracy refers to a group of 2 or more people, so a group of people concocting a secret plan to do something wrong, usually criminal or hurtful to other people. A conspiracy theory is a way to try and explain an event or situation. And one important thing to remember is that a theory, by definition, is unproven and unverified. So if you think back to the scientific method, we call things a theory before we are able to prove or verify them. So it's important for us to remember, because we're going to talk about a lot of conspiracy theories, that most of them are not true. And most of them are theories that people come up with to explain something that has happened. Most conspiracy theories involve a powerful organization like a government, a secret society, the Illuminati is an example of that, or corporations, especially big corporations. And the bigger a corporation gets, the more and more likely a person's going to be to come up with a conspiracy theory about them. So there are some good things about conspiracy theories. We usually don't think about them in a good way, but there are some good things about them. Some conspiracies, for instance, really happened, like Watergate, right? A group of people conspired against a presidential election, and that conspiracy was proven to be true. Some people had conspiracies, for instance, about Facebook using our private information. That conspiracy turned out to be true. But conspiracy theories can help us become skeptical of information that we get from people in groups in positions of power. We shouldn't believe everything the government tells us, everything corporations tell us, everything that powerful groups of people tell us. The inclination to question and investigate further and not just believe things the minute you hear it, that is a wonderful inclination and something that we want all students and all scholars and all professors and all citizens to have. We want you to be inclined to think, maybe that's not true. But conspiracy theories are more hurtful, usually, than they are helpful. Most conspiracy theories are either completely false or rely on a great deal of exaggeration. A lot of people who believe conspiracy theories tend to believe them without doing their own investigation. So they just hear a theory like the Earth is flat, and they only read information that confirms that theory, and they don't investigate whether or not it's true. And that's problematic. Many conspiracy theories defy, not define, English teachers can spell sometimes, many conspiracy theories defy scientific consensus or possibility. The best example I can give you is the flat earth conspiracy theory, right? All scientists agree, and as Dr. Tarwater pointed out earlier, have agreed for a great deal of time that the earth is round and that it moves around the sun. That's a scientific consensus.
Yes.
And a conspiracy theory that defies scientific consensus, which means all the experts in a field agree, that conspiracy theory can't be true. And the biggest problem that I can think about is when a person develops conspiracy theories as their worldview, which means that they think that everything that happens is the result of a government or corporate conspiracy, and that people are out to get them, that people are out to get you and me, and that we should be skeptical of everything. That causes paranoia, and it causes you to stop trusting the people around you, and it's to stop engaging in social activities and to start kind of disassociating from reality. And that's what happens on the extreme end of people who believe in conspiracy theories as their worldview.
So you're saying it's okay to have a healthy amount of skepticism where you look into stuff for yourself.
Yes.
Don't take all the sources at face value, but you can go too far with that.
And think everything is a lie, everything's been made up, everything, like the Matrix kind of conspiracy. Yes. So this information was provided to us by Professor Mata, who is a psychology professor and an expert in that field. And we asked her, and she was going to join us, but you all know what happened. So we asked her.
The live
we asked her, hey, what makes people inclined to believe conspiracy theories? Why do people fall for them or believe them? Or why do we want to believe them, even if we know they're not true? So she said that there's a lot of research on the subject, a lot of psychological research. Of course, there's other kinds of research into it as well. But the psychological research tells us that people believe in conspiracy theories kind of out of a certain desire. And there's three kinds of desires. The first is that people just want to understand the world around them. And they're trying to make sense of certain events or certain natural events that happen that we're not able to understand. And a conspiracy theory might be an easy explanation for why certain groups of people have something and others don't, for why governments do certain things, for why natural disasters happen. And it helps people understand things in a kind of easy way. The second is to feel secure and in control, right?
So it's almost comforting to, quote unquote, understand the world around us.
Right. And if it's something that, like the moon landing was faked, that makes us feel maybe more secure because there isn't a bunch of science and technology that we don't understand, that we don't have any control over out there happening. It might be more securing to you or more comforting to know that it was fake. Right. Of course, it wasn't faked. And the other reason is to maintain a positive self-image. And so sometimes people are inclined to believe something because it makes them feel good, or it confirms beliefs or information that they already held.
Yeah. It feels good to be right.
It really does.
Yeah,
Speaking as a person who's right all the time.
Mm-hmm. Especially today, whenever you set up the webinar for us.
Yes, I did that. I did that so well.
Sorry. All right. So there's some very well-known conspiracy theories that most or many of y'all have probably heard of. There's lots of conspiracy theories surrounding assassinations. There in fact was a conspiracy surrounding Abraham Lincoln's assassination. There's multiple theories surrounding John F. Kennedy's assassination. From the Russians did it to the CIA did it to his vice president did it. And they're all fun to talk about, but they're not true. The assassination of Martin Luther King has conspiracy theories around it. So you see conspiracy theories surrounding assassinations of public figures very often.
And I think that's an example of when it might be comforting.
Yes.
Right? It might be comforting to think it would take a group of people or a government organization.
Rather than just one lone person.
Yeah, because that's scary, right?
Right.
One individual can impact our society that much. That's a little scary.
It is. You're right. But that's a good point that can bring comfort to some people. Government attacks on Americans is certainly something that you hear, not just attacks that have happened, but attack the South because the South is more conservative. Except that military exercises happen all the time around here, and you see trains with that sort of stuff all the time. The moon landing, there's a conspiracy theory that never happened, that it was filmed out in a desert somewhere, but that we never actually landed on the moon. Professor Davis Hanna has already addressed the flat Earth theory. False flag attacks, which would be when an attack takes place and it looks like, it's an attack on somebody on the left. So you think, your first thought would be, oh, somebody on the right did that. But saying that it was a false flag attack would mean that it was actually somebody on the left who did it to stir up animosity toward the right. So actually, an attack that is deceptive to make you think that the other side actually committed it. Crisis acting, which is an idea that, in national crises, after natural disasters, that the government hires actors to go in and talk to the media and, drum up whatever happened there. The denying of historical events, as we'll talk about in the last webinar, and denying scientific facts and evidence. So a lot of conspiracy theories you can see, especially based on the last two, really ignore the evidence that is out there. And instead, as you pointed out a while ago, really kind of live in an echo chamber and only review information that agrees with that conspiracy theory and not the stuff that challenges it. My question here is, actually, before we get to that, is this an age of conspiracism? Some claim that we are in an age of conspiracism where, because conspiracy theories can be found everywhere on the internet, and statistics reveal that a large portion of ordinary citizens endorse conspiracy theories on a wide range of topics. But that's not unusual when you look at the history of it. Americans have always believed in and relied on conspiracy theories. In 1964, Richard Hofstadter published an essay called The Paranoid Style in American Politics. And he really dives in and looks at different conspiracies, from like the Illuminati. There's a quote from a Texas newspaper in the 1850s about the Pope, the Pope trying to take over the United States. This is the quote from the Texas newspaper. It is a notorious fact that the monarchs of Europe and the Pope of Rome are at this very moment plotting our destruction and threatening the extinction of our political, civil, and religious institutions. So conspiracy, that was in 1855. And so, it's not anything new. A study in 2014 took over 104,000 published letters that U.S. citizens had sent to the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune between 1890 and 2010. And they reviewed these letters looking for some sort of conspiratorial content. And what they found is that the conspiracy theories varied over time. So what people believed in, the types of theories varied over time, but the prevalence of conspiracy theories really did not vary over time. So throughout American history...
So it's not new.
It's not new. Throughout American history, you see people very often hearing or talking about or buying into conspiracy theories.
And they always seem to follow the same pattern. A conspiracy theory about a large, powerful organization like the Roman Catholic Church.
And the Pope. Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. Or the government is coming to get us.
So even though it seems like we are living in an age of conspiracy theories and they're everywhere and they're not more prevalent, they're not new, it's not new to our society or social system.
Right. Now, there have been times where there were spikes in them, and two particular data spikes. First of all, shortly before the year 1900. And so it's important to look at what was going on at this time. This is the height of the Second Industrial Revolution. It's a period that was characterized by the rise of major companies, quick there was quick technological progress in a rapidly changing power structure. And then the second spike occurred during the late 1940s and the early 1950s. And this is the period where the Cold War began. So you can see in both of these times that people are uneasy because, in the first one in the late 1800s, there's this drastic change in every aspect of everybody's life. And that's really uncomfortable. And they almost don't know who to trust. They don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. And so when conspiracy theories come about, again, back to the comfort and security and control, that kind of helps you feel better about the rapid change. And then when you're talking about the Cold War, is Russia going to nuke us? Is this going to be the end of the world?
If it is culturally prevalent to be paranoid, especially in a time of the Cold War, I could see why it would be a breeding ground for conspiracy theories.
So you can see that conspiracy theories are not a new thing. So what produces these theories? The factors in producing conspiracy theories are a desire to see everything as orderly or purposeful. Economic uncertainty can produce these, and changing technology. And I think that one's a little bit harder for us to wrap our brains around, maybe because technology changes so drastically now. But if you're looking at the late 1800s, they've witnessed changes within a span of a few decades that had not been witnessed in hundreds of years. For hundreds of years, you got around horseback. But then suddenly, they had...
Everything was changing.
Yes. Yeah. Suddenly they have steam engines and, then they have railroads and you're getting around much quicker. And, forever you'd been writing letters and now all of a sudden you have telephones. You had telegraphs and then you had telephones. So there's these changes, and that's kind of unsettling. And what is that technology going to lead to? Is the government going to start spying on us? Of course, that would be what we're saying today.
Yeah.
And, the government can spy on you because most of you probably have something in your house. What are those things? The Amazon things?
Yeah, Alexa.
Oh, yes, thank you. Alexa is recording you. Did you not know? But that's for real. I'm not saying the government is listening. I'm just saying Alexa is listening.
Alexa's always listening.
Global instability or war definitely can lead to conspiracy theories. Political polarization, one for that historically, the election of 1800. Y'all think today's politics are nasty? Man, study the late 1790s up to 1800, where Thomas Jefferson, right, the author of our Declaration of Independence, was thought by some to be the Antichrist. And then his opponent, John Adams, another leading founding father, is classified or described as a pimp. There are these theories. His son, John Quincy Adams, actually was accused in the election of 1828 of providing a virgin for the Russian Tsar.
That actually sounds very similar to conspiracy theories we have today.
I know. See, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And then changing social norms. People get really uneasy. And so then, again, going back to comfort and security and control.
That's where we think there are hidden agendas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our modern age actually meets all of these requirements. And we actually have fewer conspiracies now, but we have further reaching media. So the Flat Earth Society and that sort of stuff, it seems like we have so many conspiracy theories. It's just that you can hear about them and read about them so much more through the internet
and social
media now.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. That's a great way to put it.
So we hear about where they come from and why we might want to believe them. But what is important to us as students, scholars, professors, and citizens is that when we hear information, whether it's information that comes from a powerful organization like the government or a corporation, or whether it's information that we read on Facebook that we think is a conspiracy theory or just a news story, it's important for us to examine information and to investigate things for ourselves. And so if it's a topic that you're interested in, if it's a fact that you've heard and you've never heard that kind of information before, or if it's something you need more information about, you have to develop a set of skills called information literacy. And this is a set of skills that most of your classes are helping you develop already. And this is a skill that you're actually helping yourself develop by listening to this webinar.
Absolutely.
Because we are giving you a new approach to a topic that relates to your life, and we are experts presenting you with information. So the first thing you have to do is determine what information you need. So if, for instance, we say something in today's webinar or video, if we say something today that you want more information about, that you want to investigate further, or even if you want to check and make sure that we're telling you the truth, then you determine what information you need and you access the information. You could access the information by Googling it, by going to a book. You guys remember books, newspapers, news sources, other websites.
You can go through the database in our TCC library.
Absolutely.
It has some great reliable sources there.
Ask a librarian where you can get information on a particular source, or ask one of your professors, hey, I heard you talk about this, or I heard them talk about this on the video. Do you have more information, or do you know where I could find out more information about that? And of course, the other thing you can do is take a class that relates to the topic. So if you're interested in the psychological aspect of this, take a psychology class. That person is an expert in this topic. Then you have to evaluate your sources. So whether your source is a person like a professor, a newspaper, something from the library database, and especially if it's a website or an unverified source, you have to evaluate the reliability of that source. So you have to investigate who wrote it, where was it published, how long ago was it published, how old is that information, how does it relate to the topic, how can I know that it's fact and not opinion, and how can I tell that support for an idea is relevant and can be trusted. Just because there are 1,000 videos on YouTube about the earth being flat, the volume of information does not mean that it's true. The number of people telling you something does not make it true. I mean, you've all read dumb, idiotic things on Facebook or Twitter, and they get repeated and they get amplified. So you have to do...
The dumber they are, the more often they get shared.
Absolutely. So you have to do your own evaluating of the sources.
And not just those sources, but what sources is that source using? You know, are they citing where they get their information?
Exactly.
Is that a legit, reliable thing to look at? And also understand that, you know, all of us have biases. And so you can't just get one source and say, okay, this is gold. This is absolutely the way it is. Yep. You need to look at multiple sources and know that the truth is likely somewhere in between all of them.
Absolutely. And you have to incorporate. So the next thing you do once you evaluate it, and when you evaluate it, you have to bounce out ideas that are too opinionated, too biased, that a weirdo on a blog wrote. That weirdo who has a blog might have a lot of information, but if you can't verify him and he's not giving you his sources, then you can't trust that as reliable information. So once you evaluate sources, you incorporate new information into your existing knowledge base. So the information we're telling you today, some of this you already knew, right? You knew that people thought the earth was flat. You knew that conspiracy theories existed. Hopefully, we're also giving you information that's new. And so you have to find a way in your mind to connect your existing information, the things you already knew before you watch this video, to the new information, the things that we're telling you. And that is how you create knowledge and understanding of a topic, is you connect existing knowledge to new information. And the last thing you have to do is understand legal and ethical issues. And that's mostly important if you intend on publishing something or sharing it widely or writing a book on it or using it in a research paper. It's unethical, for instance, to copy information and put it into your paper. It's unethical to repeat something that you know is a lie, is false information, to be misleading. It's not legally problematic to tell a lie for the most part. So unless, again, you're publishing something or disparaging someone's reputation, you don't have a lot of legal concerns, but you do have to ask yourself, or you should at least ask yourself ethically, before you share something, are you sharing something that's true? Are you sharing something that's helpful? Or are you sharing something that just confirms your pre-existing beliefs and is contributing to mass misinformation? So the best way to evaluate a source, believe it or not, is to use the CRAP method. So currency means how old is the information, and depending on the topic. So if it's about the election of, 1790, then you don't need necessarily a new source. Right. But if it is about the election of 2020, then you probably do need a new source. How relevant is it? So is it related directly to what you're talking about, or is it about kind of something else? The authority, that's the source of the information, not just where you found it, but where was it published and who wrote it, and how, again, are they citing their own sources. Accuracy means, in order to evaluate accuracy, that means you have to check it against other sources. If somebody says something crazy in a news article and you can't find that information anywhere else, it's probably not true, because if it's crazy information, every news agency wants to report about it. So if you can't find similar or confirming information elsewhere, then it's not something that ethically you should be repeating. And again, the purpose, and that goes back to what Dr. Tarwater was saying. People have biases, people have opinions, people sometimes have agendas that it benefits them to spread certain information. So if my purpose is to persuade or to give you my opinion, then I'm less reliable than if my purpose is to report the news, for instance. So this is where we would usually take questions, but we're just talking to a microphone.
Right.
So Dr. Tarwater is going to tell you about our next webinar, which is going to be a webinar, and it's going to work.
And our handy microphone that normally works is now working again, and clearly works a whole lot better than what we had earlier. So we will not have the same problems at this time next week. So Wednesday, February 6th at 2 p.m. is our next webinar. Again, that one is Spies and Ties, looking at
corporate espionage.
World. Yes, corporate espionage. So that'll be a really interesting one. So you will see below this video a link to a Google form that will be available for 48 hours after we post this video. And so if you watch this in the first 48 hours, you may click on that Google form and submit it, and that will be given to your professor for you to receive credit. And then if your professor allows you to watch it later, you'll have to complete whatever assignment they give you.
Absolutely. So you just put your name and your instructor's name, your name, your instructor's name, and you answer a couple of questions, and we send it to your instructor to verify your attendance. So you don't have to verify it. Now, as Dr. Tarwater said, if it's after the 48 hours and your instructors are still letting you do it for credit, they're going to ask you to write something up or provide verification otherwise. Other than that, we will see you on February 6th, or you will at least hear us clearly. Only one of us, no echoes.
Yes, no echoes.
All right. Thanks, everybody.